Hello and welcome back to the OnlyAccies podcast. On today's episode, we'll be looking back at our first of 5 cup finals that, of course, ended in defeat to Dundee United. We got news that Brian Rice, Boozy, and Brian Potter all got given new contracts over the weekend, so we'll be talking about that as well. We also look ahead to the Lanarkshire Derby against Motherwell, a hugely important game for the season, and as always, derbies are interesting. There is the rumour that fans could be back in for the playoffs if we get there, so that'll be interesting. And we end with the biggest story of the weekend, Slaney from Open Goal on AcciesTV. We get our thoughts on that as well. Brandon, I suppose, first of all, how are you feeling after Dundee United? Because you went on the match review. I don't blame you. Now you've
Oh,
had some time to process it.
I know, like you said, I've had some time to process it. I think I was quite blunt with you when you asked me if I wanted to come on. I was so scunnered. I know I come on to practically every sort of after match sort of review, regardless if I've been pumped or no, and give my thoughts. But I just felt so deflated. I couldn't be asked talking to AMD at all. If I'm being honest with you, I was scunnered. And quite rightly so. I think I've said before that the Dundee United game for me was going to be the not easiest, but one of the easier fixtures of the run in the 5 cup finals, as we call it. And I still stick with that. That would have been our easiest fixture of the next ones we're about to have. And we couldn't capitalise in true Accies fashion. We have our most shots our most shots in a game all season, but didn't even look like we were threatening them. If I'm being honest with you, the lack of sort of final ball and sort of the finishing was just extremely poor. The final decision when we were getting into perhaps promising positions was just so poor. It was so poor. And I've processed it a bit now, so I'm not as deflated as I was after the game, but it truly was scunnering, and I think it's because everybody sort of hyped themselves up a wee bit for the, as you say, sort of 5 cup finals, and despite it being so poor recently, you did have a sort of rally from the support to sort of get behind the fans, and then it just all came crushing down straight after it.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I don't blame you for not coming on. I didn't want to do a match review, to be honest. I didn't feel like it, but I felt like we I feel like we have to, especially after a big game like that. I thoroughly agree with you. By the way, I think it would have been the easiest game. It was the easiest game of the run in. Motherwell are only up. Kelly, we know they're only up. Ross County always difficult, and St Mirren we just have problems with no matter what. So I do think Dundee United would have been the easiest game, and as you said, it was chances created, but just not taken. We didn't look like scoring at all. There was never a real kind of open chance. And even the ones that we did get, I never had any confidence in the players to take them, and that says a lot about them. One thing I did say in the match review, though, was that this game highlighted just how weak and thin the squad is. I mean, we had 5 players on the bench who were entrusting Kyle Monroe up top to partner Bruce Anderson. We know we've had injury problems. It's well documented. Put that aside, though, we had these injury problems in January, and we didn't look into them. We didn't do anything about them. We signed Bruce Anderson, which we needed, but that's not enough. I'm interested. Brian Rice said after the game that it was the best we'd played all season. Now, I was lucky enough to be asked on a podcast, and they asked me this same question. And what I said basically was, I think that's incorrect. I think the Motherwell 4-1 game, in my opinion, was the best performance. It was the most well-rounded. Plenty of chances created, plenty of chances taken, and defended really well. We even had some flair. Fucking Hakima Dolphins doing Zidane turns in the middle of the pitch. So that was the best all-round performance for me. What do you think about what Brian Rice said?
No, you're spot on, mate. It certainly wasn't our best performance, and it's quite a deluded comment if I'm being honest with you. If it was our best performance, we would have won. I mean, that's it. And saying that sort of comment, that I don't know, that's just very tin pot to me. How can you say something was so good if you lose?
Mm-hmm.
You know, ultimately, and we weren't even that good against Dundee United. It was more so they're just shite, and they score early on, and
From our
similar.
mistake, so it wasn't even like a well-worked goal or
They
anything.
score early on from our mistake. that means they take the foot off the gas of any gas they even had. And obviously we were going to sort of create chances because we are getting beaten. We're clinging for dear lives. So, no, we did create a lot more chances than usual, but it certainly wasn't our best performance. I can name a few games that we've played a lot better, in my opinion. As you say, the Murrow one, Rangers were far better. What else? I know there's a few different games that, but just can't see off the top of my head now.
Is Brian Rice saying that? Is that him just trying to G up the players? Is that all that is? Is that him just trying to instill confidence in them that, you know, we've still got 4 games left. If you play like this, you will get something. Is that all that is?
I would probably say it's more so his usual master of deflecting things away from reality. Is probably what I would say. It really is. You could see it for perhaps try to rally the players up and try to give them a boost going into the next game. But I don't think they need to have a boost going into the next game. They should be ready for it. So I'd say him saying that is just a bit deluded and just deflecting it away from the fact that we've just not been able to capitalise, having 27 shots on goal.
Yeah, well, we can say what we want about Brian Rice. He's here for at least another year. News came out after the Dundee United game that Brian Rice, his assistant Boozy, and Brian Potter, goalkeeping coach, have all signed new rolling contracts, meaning they'll be with the club for at least another season. Now, rolling contracts are not new at Hamilton. Every manager I think we've ever had has been on a rolling contract. It's just how we work. But I suppose the biggest question is, does he deserve it? I mean, in my opinion, no. I mean, his record speaks for himself. I've got the numbers here. Rice's league record as Accies manager: played 79, won 17, which is 21.5% win ratio. He's drawn 22, he's lost 40, he's scored 75 goals, conceded 137, and he's only got 73 points. Just to put that into perspective, I know we hate comparing, but you put it in perspective, Martin Canning's win ratio was 0.4 better than Brian Rice's, and he was sacked. So what did you make of the contract situation coming out? Because it was a bit strange to see.
I mean, I was asked about it on another podcast, and I was a bit more upbeat and positive than what I probably should have been about it. I kind of worked into Aki's favour a bit with the whole, my mantra is to do this. So if I do it, yeah, I'm succeeding, which Rice did say in the press conference, which, to be honest with you, that's just settling for sort of below par, and not it's the usual sort of Aki's not like sky's the limit sort of, and it's just settling for just scraping the barrel each year, and especially this year, it's just it hasn't been good enough. As you say, historically, Aki's never announced sort of managers to be on 3-year contracts. It always is a sort of rolling contract, which says a lot about their faith in what the manager's going to do, if you're being honest with you, and does allow scope for, if a manager was to do well, just to be taken away from you, like Alex Neil was. But it isn't really justified. Even if he does keep us up, you could make the argument where I don't think a lot of people could complain too much, because the sort of situation we've been in this year with the sort of depth of players he's got at his disposal, the amount of injuries we had, COVID, it was always going to be extremely tough for him. And I'm not trying to make up excuses for Brian Rice here. It is miraculous, the fact that we're still in touching distance with the players we have got available. But in saying that, performances just haven't been anywhere near a correct standard. And it's a tough one. I think the thing that I was most pissed off about the new contract is the timing of it. It just makes zero sense. If we stayed up and they gave him a new contract, fair enough. If we went down and they waited, and all that, we don't want to change things to up. We want to give Rice another shot to get us back in the Premier League. Fair enough. To do it with 4 games to go and I can't remember off the top of my head any time of recent years or in my lifetime where Accies have came out and announced that the manager's getting a new year on his rolling contract. Something just doesn't sit right with the whole way they've done it.
Yeah.
It's particularly weird, and I just don't think the way they've done it could have benefited anybody.
Mm-hmm.
I think you just need to look at social media to see the backlash that sort of has created between, as far as I can see, 95% of all Accies fans.
Yeah, I do want to read two comments from social media. One Aki's fan, both from the Facebook post, said the same owners and directors refused to back him in January window, knowing we had terrible injury crisis all season. Timing of this is all wrong, and it looks as if they are saying results don't matter in the last 4 games. Whether or not we stay up, the board of directors have made no effort to engage with the fans this season, and instead have been hide in the bunker syndrome. This needs to change no matter what league we're in this season. I agree with that comment. I think the timings, as you've said, is weird and wrong, and it does give that persona of maybe the 4 games don't matter as much because no matter what happens, Brian Rice is here next season. If we get relegated, he's here. If we stay up, he's here. I do want to read another comment though from another Accies fan who said, I think they're trying to take the pressure off the manager ahead of the big games ahead. The club will survive due to the board living within their means. It can be easy running a business over the last year. Everyone is entitled to their opinion, but Accies aren't going to attract many better managers than Brian Rice in the same way we won't attract any better players. We will likely go down and try to stabilise them, aim for a return further down the line. And that's when I can kind of see both sides of the argument. I am more on your side though. I think the timing's off, and I don't think he's done enough to warrant a new contract. But I can understand fans saying that this is the club backing the manager as they've done previously, with well documented issues, going into 4 huge games that can decide the fate of the club in the Premiership, and they're backing him to the end, and they are giving him a chance next season to bring us straight back up. If we do go down, I don't think that will happen, by the way, but that's another podcast. So I can see both sides of the argument. I can see where people are coming from, but for me, I don't see it. I don't agree with it. I do want to read, just if people haven't heard it, just a few points from the Alan Maitland's interview, and Brandon will get your thoughts on it. He said that he wanted to make an announcement to show that they back their people. He said there were many good applicants for the job, and Martin Canning left, but Brian was the best one, and he believes he still is. He says they backed him even through the difficult times when they lost to Rangers 8-0 and losing to Annan and Stranraer. He also said, we spoke at the time and I said, is this as good as it can be? Brian said, no, of course not. All these guys are missing, and based on that, it will get better. Pardon me, sorry. Based on that, it will get better, and his job is to make it better. So, again, highlighting the fact that they'll support him no matter what. I mean, we all had our thoughts about whether he should stay or not after Rangers and after the cup disaster. But what did you make of Maitland's interview? Because it seemed to get quite a reaction online.
I mean, the thing that stuck out like a sore thumb for me, or should I say maybe not stuck out, was the fact that I watched the full press conference, and not once was the word fans or fan mentioned by Alan Maitland. Brian Rice mentioned fans once when he was sort of thanking them for. Well, he thanked a list of people, and the fans were included in that, for backing him during these sort of betting sort of scandal. So that's the thing that really stuck out for me. The fact that fans were clearly evident to not be evident, if that makes sense. And which is just this common thing with Accies, I keep saying, I had deflect now. Uncommon thing, should I say? It just shows that fans really are something that they couldn't give a fuck about, and we are not even in their line of thought when they come to making any sort of decisions. Which clearly, when they have gave this contract to Rice, they couldn't give two flying fucks what the fans' thoughts were on this, which is something we're attempting to improve via the Supporters Association, I suppose, and that's a whole different other podcast which we've briefly touched on. But it's just, it's that thing that really pissed me off is the fact that Alan Maitland has been non-existent for the past year, pretty much, bar one or two cameo appearances in the media, but he's been completely under a rock. And the first sight we do see of him, there's no mention or any sort of consideration about fans,
Yeah, I mean,
especially in these times where we're in a global pandemic. We're not allowed to go to games. We're not allowed to do our usual things. It's a really tough time for people, and the way Accies have just neglected their fans, it's disgusting to say the least. It really is. And I'm not trying to like have a proper go at Accies or like have a big dig, but it just is not good enough. It's not.
yeah, I agree. I think it's been like that way for a while, and we can always make these jokes about, you know, the club have came out and said they don't need fans, they can run without us, and I think recently we've all felt like that. We've all felt like we're an afterthought, and not being at the games has obviously highlighted that even more. And it's we need to see more from Maitland. Maitland, as no matter what people say about him, he is an Accies man. Like, I think he has the club's best interests at heart. I really honestly do. I just think he goes about it in strange ways, and even coming out and saying we're a strange club, we do things in
That
strange ways. Like,
that as well for me. That's something as well that, along with the no mention of fans, it's the fact that he seemed proud to say that we're a strange club. Like, why is that something to shout to the high heavens that you are? It's not something to be proud about whatsoever. That you're a fucking weird club, because it is. It's a fucking it is a bit of a freak show of a fucking football club, if we're being perfectly honest. Which I just don't know why you'd shout to the high heavens as if that is something to be proud about. That I just didn't understand that at all. There's a lot of things that I just found that were said in that sort of press conference that was just extremely deluded. I don't know if he meant it to come across that way, but to me, it just, some of the things, like, I think, what was the wording in which he said, about the reason for Rice getting a new contract? I think it was, um, his job is to, or Brian has got the best out of all the players available to him. No, he's not.
no.
Let's be honest. No, he's not. If he's got the best possible ability out of the players he's got available with him, then why the fuck are we getting beat off Stranraer? Why are we getting beat off Annan? Why are we getting pumped pretty much 50% of our games we play?
Mm-mm.
Um, that comment I just didn't understand either.
No, I think another thing to look at is the players Brian is brought in. If he's building his own squad, I think there are three signings that he's made which I can genuinely say are very good. Ross Callahan, Akima Dolphin, and Adam Martin. They're the three that stand out to me as good signings, and I applaud him for them. But then you also have to think he's had some stinkers. Your Justin Johnsons, I don't think he got much of a chance, but Tunde Owolabi has to go in that bracket as well. So there are good and bad with all, but to me, he just has not done enough to warrant a new contract. I think if he got his safety and if we stayed up over the summer, fair enough. Give him a 1 year to see what happens. And I could also even see it if we went down and they give him a 1 year deal to try and get us back up or to try and steady us in the championship. I can understand that. It's more the timing that
Aye,
I
no, I
do not
totally agree.
understand. Like
Totally agree.
like I said, after we get safety or during the summer, if we get relegated, fair. But 4 games left, I don't get it. I was speaking to somebody, and what they said was they know for a fact all the players love Brian Rice. They said he's a well liked mammoth in the club. They all respect him massively. They like working with him. They like playing with him. So what he suggested was it's giving the players a boost knowing that the manager they like will be there next season, whether they go down or not, and it gives them a bit of a boost as well. And again, I can understand that mindset, but to me, it's not enough. It's not enough.
To be honest with you, see, when an inevitable happens, in my opinion, we do go down. And if we were to game a new contract, like you says, I wouldn't be too
Mm-hmm.
overly critical. He's not got the particularly best record, and quite a lot of my pals on a persistent basis say that Rice gets nowhere near the criticism Cannon does,
Yeah.
which to be fair, he doesn't.
Mm-hmm.
When you look at the comparisons, which we don't particularly like doing. You could argue that Rice has actually been worse.
Yep.
Due to
Statistically, he is.
statistically in the manner of defeats. The argument could be Cannon had better players at his disposal, which I'm 100% did, but statistically, they don't lie. So he doesn't really get criticised as much as he perhaps deserves at some occasions. But on the flip side, like that fans mentioned about justifying the sort of deal, could another manager do a lot more better with the players that Rice has got at his disposal and the injuries that he's had in the sort of COVID implications and the lack of depth? Is that all Rice's fault for
Yeah.
that? It's a hard one, put it that way. It is a hard one, but I think the point that we're getting at here is it's the timing of the announcement and the points that were made in the announcement of the new deal that pissed the majority of fans off. I don't think a lot of fans were complaining too much of the fact that Rice was getting a new deal. I think one good point to talk on that, I don't know if you noticed it, well, I think everyone noticed it, was
Is this Boozy's best pal?
Boozy's best mate getting in a very confrontational
Aye.
debate with fans, calling them, what was some of them? Failures at life,
Yeah.
calling them. I can't say the words on this
No, but
because it's not PG, but
yeah.
I don't think that particularly helps much. And
Nope.
that's a common thing these days. I think we sort of fans getting in debates with players or managers or backroom staffs, families, which
Yeah,
surely Accies need to step in and say, listen, you
absolutely.
can that this is not allowed. You get paid for us to do a job. Part and parcel with that is criticism or plaudits. You
Yeah.
cannot get in. It's well documented that footballers get and people in football will get criticism all over social media.
Yep.
You cannot get involved in that, but it seems that like Accies don't do the right thing, whereas saying, listen, you need to stop that happening. You need
Yep.
to tell them to not get involved. That this is part of your job. Do you know what I mean? And that's the thing that pissed me off, and I think it pissed a lot of fans off. And it's not going to do Boozy himself any
Yep.
favors with this chap fucking responding, calling people degenerates and whatnot. And I think Boozy's the last one that needs added criticism
That's
because
true.
he's been here since the Cannon days, so he's been part of the long, hard journey we've been on.
Yeah.
So he certainly needs any aided help he can get, rather than fucking somebody helping tarnish his name even more.
Yeah. I agree. It's not the first time we've had to speak about staff members' family on here, and hopefully it's the last. Looking ahead though, we do have 4 big games to come, and they don't get much bigger than our next one: Motherwell, Lanarkshire Derby. Now we are aiming for an unbeaten season versus Motherwell, and I think that's a great thing to aim for. Something we can really hopefully G the players up even more. But at the end of the day, if we get relegated, who gives a fuck? If we go down, Mother will go, right, well, you beat us 4 times, don't give a fuck, you're down. And that's the way I see it as well. Be great to go unbeaten against Motherwell, but if we get relegated, ultimately, it doesn't matter. Um, I'm wondering, Brandon, looking ahead to this Motherwell game, we were told by Brian Rice that Regan Mimno and Charlie Trafford will hopefully be back fit again. I was wondering what changes you would make to
Trafford
the
in.
Dundee United team. Trafford stay in.
Trafford in. I see when we first signed Trafford and he played a couple of games, I was very vocal about how shite I thought
Yeah.
he thought he was. Even in that air game where he scored, I says he was pish.
Mhm.
And I feel like I owe Charlie Trafford a bit of an apology, if I'm being perfectly honest with you. And I don't tend to go back in my words very often. So when we went on that, don't know if you can call it a run because we only won one or two games, but we stopped the rut that we were
Yeah.
in. Charlie Trafford was pivotal in that.
Mhm.
Charlie Trafford was man of the match in my opinion against Rangers. It, because the system we play, we need an actual defensive mid in that position, and that is clearly Charlie Chafford's position. He picks up all the scraps. He stops the sort of similar to Hakeem Adoffin. He like sort of cut off certain plays. He'll then create the counter attack pretty quick after he's sort of amended or he sort of halted the opposition going forward, which is ultimately our style of play.
Mm-hmm.
We're never very much so the team that's always in the front foot and we're the one pressing opposition. We get majority of our chances from sort of counter attacks,
Yep.
and Charlie Trafford is pivotal. So I think if he is fit, which I won't hold my breath because there's been so many times Rice has said this XYZ's back and Lewis Smith is still it. Is a good example of that. So if he's fit, then yeah, no, definitely bring Charlie Trafford in my opinion.
I think he complements Hakeem Adoffin really well.
Complements Hakeem Adoffin and Ross Callahan very well because he allows Ross Callahan to play his best role. So no, I'm not particularly saying Charlie Trafford is fucking Scott McTominay or if he's a world beater, but because that's his natural position, compared to others who get slotted in there, it's evident with our results that they're not up to the standard that clearly Charlie Trafford has been when he's played in that role. So fingers crossed he is, and hopefully we can play him because I think Motherwell will be the better team in this game.
Mm-hmm.
And I think if we have any chance of winning, then we need to sort of counter well and take our chances.
Yeah, I mean, I would agree. I'm usually very confident ahead of derby games, especially recently where we've seemed to have something over them. And I know, the Motherwell fan Gogsy does like live streams, and he said on there before that we turn into prime Barcelona when we play them and all this. But I've always felt confident, but I just don't ahead of this one. And I don't know if it's just with the form we're in. I don't know if just everybody's kind of down now about the club. But if we had the same squad, if we had the same squad as we had last time, I would feel a lot more confident. But the fact they're most likely going to be lining up with Bruce Anderson and Callum Smith, or Bruce Anderson and Kyle Monroe, doesn't give me any confidence. I do think Motherwell will be the better team. I just hope to God we can pull something off because, in my opinion, I want to get your thoughts on this as well. I think this game will be the relegation decider. I know mathematically it's not, but we're currently sit 12th. We're 2 points behind 11th. We're 3 behind 10th. I think if we lose this game and other games go against us, I think this is us, to be honest with you.
If we win this game, it will be huge.
Yep.
And like you said, relegation decider, if we were to win this game, which I have no confidence in whatsoever, like you says, going into Motherwell games, there always is that sort of, can we get something here? Because as I spoke to Gogsy in another podcast, and then, as he says, for some weird reason, and we seem to completely out of nowhere change into a different team when we come up against them. And that's the sort of hope I'm clinching on to that we will. But just with the players we've got available, I don't know. I just, like you says, I'm struggling to have any sort of confidence. I was reading another stat as well that out of the years that we've been back in the top flight, both times around, there's only been 1 year where Motherwell have failed to score a minimum of 3 goals to us, and I think that was 2010. So every year Motherwell do tend to give us a doing, and I'm extremely worried that this could be this could be it. And like you says, if we were to get beat, I just don't see any way back for us. We've got 3 games after that. They'll be they'll be so down after getting beat their first derby, because for many of the players, they don't know what defeat tastes like in a Lanarkshire derby. So we don't know how they're going to react to that because they've never experienced it yet. So it definitely is a huge game in a relegation battle, and whatever the result is, it'll have a huge say in what happens.
Yeah, I mean, even if you look at the other games, so Kelly are playing Dundee United, and the bigger one, Ross County are playing St Mirren. I've got a feeling Ross County will win that game.
I've got a feeling both of them will win it, if I'm being honest with you.
Right?
Dundee United are dreadful, and we still that against us. Kelly won that, and St Mirren really don't have much to play for, if we're being honest with you. The Scottish Cup, that's what their full mindset will be on.
Yeah,
So,
that's
if
fair enough,
Ross County turn up, Ross County will win, which
yeah.
is why we ultimately need to win on Wednesday, and we can just hopefully cling on to the fact that I suppose it would be so Accies-esque. We've got 2 wins in 19. We've been dreadful recently. Everybody's down in the dumps with everything related to the club just now. And that's the hope I'm clinging on to, is just this is what we seem to do best, is when everybody just thinks we're dead and buried. We do a Jesus and just appear from nowhere. Do you know? We resurrect from nowhere, which is all we can kind of hope for. But I'm not going to hold my breath, so we'll see what happens.
Another kind of small piece of news, a rumour that we've kind of got recently, is that Hearts midfielder Harry Cochrane is only 19 years old and has revealed that he's leaving the club at the end of the season. And it's been kind of thrown around by Accies fans. He would be the perfect signing for Accies. A young Scottish midfielder who's had some injury problems, needs a chance to prove himself, and usually we're the club that they go to. He's had loans previously with Dunfermline and Montrose. 12 appearances for Dunfermline, 11 for Montrose. He's played with the Scotland under 19s as a highest he's been up to. He seems like a player who needs a kind of recovery, needs a chance, and we always seem to be the kind of club that give that to young players. I'm wondering what your thoughts are on Harry Cochrane and the chance of us bringing him in.
I mean, he broke onto the scene sort of, I think it was that game where Hearts beat Celtic 4-0 to end a like 60-something game unbeaten, the unbeaten run. He scored in that, and he was only 16-year-old. Do you know what I mean? He was sort of tipped to be the sort of next big thing, like Hearts' next sort of talent to come through, because he hadn't really brought anybody through, I don't think, in a long while. And then a few injury. He had a really bad injury at Hearts. He went on loan to Dunfermline. He wasn't in Robbie Nielsen's plans. He went to Montrose. I think Montrose fans have been extremely giving him a lot of praise.
Yeah.
The boys from Stonehouse, he goes to my hairdressers in Hamilton, which is, as you can see, a very good hairdresser. I think you summed it up perfectly there, mate. A boy that's been tipped for big things. Injuries have hampered that, have sort of prevented him being grown to his full potential. He still is extremely young.
Mm-hmm.
Accies are the best place to go and prove Hearts wrong, for not nurturing him to be what they thought he was going to be. I think there's a small development fee that would be involved, though. That could be the only thing that would maybe hamper, maybe sort of prevent Accies signing him. He's a local boy. He needs to prove people wrong. I think he's a good talent. For when I've saw him, he looked like a real player. If the opportunity is there, definitely Aki should grab it. I personally think he'll go to a slightly bigger team, maybe a Dundee United or something. I think a lot of Hearts fans are raging that they're not getting to keep him. I think Hearts actually did offer him a deal. It was him that rejected it, which is a weird one. So maybe something's already lined up. Who knows? But it's certainly something Aki should be looking into, and it would be beneficial for all parties, because it would slot into our first team, I would imagine, regardless if we're in the Premier League or the Championship. And yeah, we'd be able to sort of prove people wrong, or it could come to us and he'd be shite, which is always a case. But I think no, I like the look of him, and I think being a local boy, there's a lot worse we could be doing, regardless.
That's another thing. It'd be a cracking signing for the Championship if we do go down.
No, definitely.
Cracking signing as well. Well, no matter what happens in the derby, mate, you will have some entertainment, because confirmed by the club, Open Goals' very own Slaney will be the guest on AcciesTV. Now, this seems to have a weird way split opinion within the Accies fans.
It's a pure Accies-esque thing for fans to be so raging with. I mean, see if I can understand both sides of the argument here. I personally don't have a major issue with it. There is issues that I will touch on. I actually really like him, despite him being an irritable wee fanny, as someone called him. I actually do really like him. I think he's fucking hilarious. It's just he has been open to criticise Accies, but so do always. We all criticise Accies, and we're one of the, like, even your biggest Accies fans openly criticise Accies on a persistent basis. And but I suppose then when you're saying you want somebody in to come and do media that's openly criticising you, they've said they want you to get relegated, it just doesn't really sit well
No.
with especially, I think if this was to have happened in one of the previous derbies, I don't think anybody would have batted an eyelid.
Yeah.
I think it's because we're rock dead bottom. We've got 4 games left of the season. We need as much sort of help and sort of
We need as much support as we can.
support as we can. And this has just been seen as a sort of comical revenue and bringing gimmick, which I just the time it's the thing with Aki's, the timing's all wrong. I listen. I don't know. I don't care. I think it would be a lot better than watching Marcus Nash sit like a Churchill dog doing this every 2 seconds. Speaking to Sean Want, who clearly could not
He does not want to be there.
want to be in Marcus Nash's company, if we're being honest. So it'll be a wee laugh, and it'll be something different, but the timing it is just all wrong, if we're being
I think
honest.
my thing with Slaney is I'm like you. I listen to Open Goal most weeks. I do think he's funny. I do think he's a good laugh, but it's just the timing is so weird, and the fact he openly talks on Open Goal, but he's a former Motherwell player. He openly
The one
talks
thing
about
the
not
one
being
thing I would
Accies in the league.
the one thing I would say on that is he fucking hates Motherwell. Although he's an old player, he absolutely despises Motherwell, and that's how. Oh, you've seen people, why we having an old Motherwell player on, etc. He hates them. See, when you listen to see if you ever to type in Paul Slane Motherwell on Twitter, go and look at the Motherwell fans. They fucking despise him as well because he openly like slags them. Although he might say like, "Oh, I hope they go down to a Diddy club," about us, that is nothing compared to what he says about Motherwell. He absolutely despises Motherwell. So, um, it's just the timing's all wrong. Do you know what I mean? I don't have a big issue with it. I can see why people think it's a horrendous idea because the situation we're currently in. It just seems as if it's another thing for the club to bring in revenue, and they're not really taking the fans into consideration when they're doing it. But I don't know. It'll be a laugh.
It'll be a
Is
laugh.
the sort of is a sort of Aki's mantra? Fuck it, it'll be a laugh,
It'll be a
sort of
laugh.
thing. So it'll be good. It'll be a wee difference, but I mean the timing's all wrong, and they could have done it a lot better. With like, I don't know, bringing someone in that could entice the fans, get the fans ready, and that would be relayed on social media, and that would get to the players, etc. So
Absolutely.
timing's all wrong. Bit of a comical revenue gimmick, but it'll be a real laugh.
It'll be a laugh. We do have another news story, which is a really good news story. That fans are apparently going to be allowed back into big games coming up. So the Old Firm Cup final, the Old Firm Cup round, sorry, is the main driving force for this. But off the back of that, playoffs, relegation, and promotion playoffs are included in this as well. So we could allow up to 2,000 fans into the game. Now, haha, very funny. Accies don't have 2,000 fans, but ultimately, what that means is we could all go. Like, I don't know if it's like 2,000 per club. I don't know if it's 2,000 in total, but it could ultimately mean the majority of Accies fans should go to a game, which would be fantastic. It would be brilliant to be back and watching live football. I would bite your hand off for 11th place right now.
That's what I was going to say. You're
Incentive.
getting a bit far ahead of yourself and hopeful of the playoff, which I'd bite. I said that in another when I talked to somebody else. I would bite your hand off if they offered me the playoff because I think we're dead and buried. But no, it'll. I think the full Scottish football fans and the sort of full world fans have been football fans have been waiting for this sort of announcement. Obviously, there's some people in the world that are lucky enough to be able to go and watch their teams just now. It's been probably the worst year of our lives, especially as people that football is their life, really. So it's amazing news.
It'd be Aki's thing to give it to Old Firm fans.
It would be Accies-esque if actual Accies fans weren't the ones that were allowed to go, and they just gave it to the Hampton community that couldn't give a fuck to Accies, i.e. George Galloway and co.
That's another
podcast. But no, it's fantastic news if we're being honest with you. But we better not get ahead of ourselves.
No,
we could be dead and buried by then. I think I saw somebody, an Accies fan, reply to that and saying that they don't know if that would actually be a good thing, the fans being allowed in, because of how toxic and hostile things are now. But I think that all goes out the window if we were allowed in. We've not been able to go to the football in so long. I just can't wait for that day I get to walk through the NDP turnstiles and be able to go to a toilet that fucking absolutely reeks of piss and fucking eat a pie that's probably been sitting there since the last game. No, it'll be good, man. It'll be good.
Mate, I'm the same. I can't wait. And again, I know it's if buts and maybes with the playoffs, but just be back in a football game would be amazing, and we're all looking forward to it. That does bring us to the end of this month's podcast. Thank you very much for listening. We hope you did enjoy it. Be sure to let us know your thoughts on all the topics we've covered in the comment section. Of course, our social medias are linked in the description as well. If you want to read up on Maitland's interview and the fans back in it interview, all of which will be linked in the description too. Thanks a lot for watching. We'll see you after Motherwell.